Well, that's not my best, but that's certainly not my worst either. Look at that, stack of dimes. So you're watching this video to learn yourself how do I stack some dimes when MIG welding. There's a few tips I can share with you and also some techniques, all which I'm going to do with this video. So stay tuned, let's get into it and I'll show you how it's done. If you want to stack dimes, you need to use a bit of technique where rather than simply drag the torch, you manipulate it to work the weld pull along your joint. But before we get into that, let's not forget to look after ourselves. Welding is a cool skill to have, but accidents and injuries, they're not so cool. Protect your eyes with a good welding mask. Protect your hands with decent gloves. Wear a face mask or use an extractor so you don't breathe any weld fumes. Or keep your work area well ventilated so the fumes blow away and don't build up. Always take sensible fire precautions. And here's a new one, keep dogs away too. Okay, back to welding. It is perfectly possible to get a good weld by simply dragging or pushing your torch along a joint, just like this little scene here, and that's fine, but it will not give you the stacked dimes effect. In fact, the only thing stacking dimes achieves is looking cool, and that's a good enough reason, right? Of course it is. So how do we do it? The secret is you need to manipulate your torch as you move along the joint to work the weld pull. Notice as I move along, I go back on myself. This makes the weld pull stack on itself as it sets directly behind the torch. We're going to explore the different methods to achieve this. Good settings are important too. I'm using 3mm thick steel plate, so I do not need too much power. I'm running at 125 amps and 19.5 volts using a 0.8mm thick steel wire and argon CO2 mixed gas set at 8 litres per minute. Your settings will vary according to your technique and material thickness, but using 3mm or 1/8 inch fixed practice pieces is a good place to start. So what are the techniques for manipulating the torch? Everyone has their own, but the most used ones are known as the cursive E, the back and forth motion, and the sawtooth. With the pen representing our torch motion, let's start with the cursive E, which comprises of a continuous figure of E motion. This technique ensures the top and bottom toes are caught, and this part of the letter E gives the back and forth motion to stack the weld pull. Remember, your weld pull sets virtually as soon as it's behind the torch, so as you go back on yourself, you are welding on hard metal. The key element here is keep your motion continuous along the whole length of the weld joint. The next technique is the back and forth. This involves stacking the weld pull by going back momentarily and manipulating the weld pull on the set metal immediately behind the torch. This method can be effective, but unlike the cursive E, you are not directing the weld pull on the top and bottom toes of the joint. I find a higher voltage helps here, but if you are doing coded work, watch your parameters and heat inputs to ensure you remain compliant. The sawtooth method is a zig-zag up and down motion on each toe along the weld joint, pausing on each toe. Others may have a different take on this. It works for some, but personally I am not a fan of this method and it's a bit more challenging, but it can get results. For me, my method of choice is the cursive E. I find this method catches the top and bottom toes perfectly and it gives just the right motion to give the stacked effect. Whatever technique you use, it is critical that you keep every movement consistent. And as with all welding, practice, practice, practice. If you don't get it first time, keep trying. You will get it. If you get it right, this is the kind of result you will get, which will improve as you practice. And while you're here, hit the subscribe button. This is the first of a series of welding skills videos I'm making. Also, check out my project videos. I recently made a rocket stove, which is here, and a mini smoker from an old fire extinguisher, which is here. Many more coming up, so hit subscribe to not miss out. Okay, so let's get welding to see how this looks through the lens. But first of all, I'm going to show you my setup. I have a magnetic dial stand holding a welding lens in front of my camera. I'm still working to get the perfect live welding shot, so if you have any hints, tips or advice, drop a comment. Any advice is always welcome. After all, we all learn off each other. We are about to see a video I took of a weld run. It takes a moment for the camera to focus, but I want you to observe two things. Firstly, look out for the consistent cursive E motion along the length of the weld joint. And also, listen to the sound. If your weld sounds clear, crisp and consistent, then your combination of settings and technique is somewhere handy. This is how that run turned out. Notice how each torch manipulation creates a stack, as the weld pool is made to move back on the set metal behind the torch. Keep your motions consistent and in time, you'll get it. For the best results, you do need a good MIG set. I'm using a MIG set which cost me £200 from eBay. If I do my bit, it does the job, but a good, smooth running welder helps a lot. So that is how I stack dimes with MIG sets. Give it a go yourself, and don't be disheartened if it doesn't work first time. The key thing about welding is practice, practice, practice. I can show you the basic tips and techniques, and after that, find your own method which works for you. I hope this video has been of some help to you. This is going to be the first part of a series I'm making all about welding skills, so stay tuned for the next videos, which are all going to be about TIG routing in different positions, MIG fill, MIG cap and many more. So please give us a like and subscribe. All support is welcome and helpful. Thanks very much and see you next time.